Kraven the Hunter is not as bad as people say it is. Let's talk about it. Hello everyone, my name is Dakota and welcome back to my channel where here we talk about everything superhero related. And yesterday I had the opportunity to attend a early screening of Kraven the Hunter, and I thought why not share my thoughts on the movie in the midst of all the bad reviews. Now I will try my best not to include major spoilers in this review, but there might be a few spoilers, so I will let you know ahead of time so that way you can skip ahead, but for the most part there won't be any spoilers in this review. And before we get started, be sure to check out my Etsy where I make really cool necklaces that you don't want to miss out on. And because my YouTube audience is so special, I've created a promo code for you guys. So if you use DAK YouTube, that's D-A-K YouTube, you'll get 10% off your first order. And while you're down there, go ahead and follow my Instagram. And now that that's out the way, let's get into the video. So I thought we'd start off with just a basic summary of the movie. So the story begins with Kraven's complex relationship with his ruthless father that starts him down a path of vengeance, motivating him to become not only the greatest hunter in the world, but also the most feared. Now let's start off with what I liked about this film. I really enjoyed how much of Kraven's backstory was included. I feel like in superhero films, we don't really get a backstory from beginning to end and more of just quick flashbacks, whereas in Kraven, that's not the case. As I was sitting in the theater, I found myself really connecting with Levi Miller, who's the actor who plays young Sergei, which is another element that I really appreciated because it's not often that these actors get a whole lot of screen time. I felt like it was the right balance of backstory to present day. And one thing that I cannot stress enough is the fact that this movie is the perfect setup to what could be one of Sony's best trilogies. Now, one thing that I will say is that I expected a little bit more gore throughout the movie than there actually was. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not a gory movie person at all, but just from the tones of the trailers, I expected there to be a little bit more of a darker feeling to the film, and it just didn't deliver as much as I expected. And while I still enjoyed all of the fight scenes, some may say I left craving more. You need to be! That was so cringy. But regardless, they were still enticing to watch and still quite gory and more violent compared to what we're seeing in previous Marvel films, just not as much as I was expecting. And I also want to point out, I honestly don't think an R rating is appropriate for this film. If anything, I would rate it PG-13. And at times, it felt like the F-bomb was dropped just for fun because they could. And I know that a lot of the people who have shared their opinion on this movie already have placed a lot of emphasis on how bad the dialogue is. And I will say it was choppy here and there, and I'm definitely not saying that this is the perfect movie, but I still think that it could be considered to be a good one. And I will be going to see this film again very soon, but if I can remember correctly, there were a few scenes where the lip syncing was just so painfully obvious. And one scene that I can remember just off of the top of my head is towards the end of the movie, Sergei and Calypso were getting off of a helicopter and the words just did not match with their mouths. And then again, when they were walking away, I remember Calypso said something and it was just so obvious that it was either re-recorded or I don't even know what happened. The words did not match with her mouth. And I don't know if that was just me who saw it or maybe it was a problem with my theater itself. I don't know, but regardless, these amateur mistakes should not be made in a film with such a large budget. And also considering that the film's release date has been pushed back multiple times, these kind of mistakes should not have been made. But regardless, the characters in this movie make it what it is. Fred Hechinger as Dimitri is one of my favorite parts of this film. The sibling relationship between Aaron Taylor Johnson as Sergei, his older brother, is just so amazing to watch and I could not look away. And just Dimitri's character in general is so captivating. He gives you sort of an eerie feeling like you don't know what he's about to do next. And a bit of a spoiler warning, but not really because all of this is listed on his IMDb, but just in case, skip to this timestamp if you don't want to know any small spoilers. Okay, so like I said earlier, this film is the perfect setup for a trilogy, and I still believe that. And Dimitri's reveal as a chameleon at the end was just so good. And we kind of expected this reveal just from the feeling he was giving us in the beginning of the film. When he was captured by the Rhino and asked to join his team, you could feel the tension in the room, like, will he betray his family or will he not? We weren't entirely sure. So that kind of eerie feeling matched with the innocence of his character leaves you suspicious, but then you kind of forget about it when we jump back into Kraven's story. I just really hope that regardless of what the critics say, Sony will listen to the true fans and give this movie a chance for a sequel at least. I just think that Kraven vs. the Chameleon would make such a good movie. It would build his character and, if done correctly, create the desire amongst the fans for the full trilogy. Now let's talk about the acting in this movie. As for acting, I didn't really have a problem with it. I think that Aaron Taylor Johnson did a great job as Kraven, and he makes it so easy to fall in love with his character. And on the contrast, Russell Crowe did an amazing job creating such an unlikable character. And like I said before, Fred Hechinger is probably my favorite part of this entire film. The quirkiness of his character while also seeing his personality build and what could be traumatic experiences added to his backstory. Everything is just put together so well for his character. And I think the problem most people have with this movie is the execution. I think maybe with a different director, this film could be loved by everyone. But other than that, the music and the cinematography of this film should be widely appreciated. My favorite scenes is of Dimitri singing. There's just something about his character that I love so much. The innocence while also feeling the presence of his father everywhere he goes, just trying to make him proud. I just love his character, and whenever I feel like I can do a deep dive on a character, I just know it's good. And lastly, I want to talk about one major element of this movie that I found to be sort of unnecessary, and that's Christopher Abbott as the foreigner. I feel like his character was thrown in there without much substance. He didn't exactly have a clear reason why he was after Kraven, whereas the Rhino had a whole backstory with the Kravinoff family, which gave him a reason to hate them. You have, for lack of a better word, two mafia bosses teaming up for fun because they want the same thing, when in reality you probably wouldn't be so eager for a team up when dealing with Nikolai Kravinoff. You would want all the profit and power for yourself. It felt like the foreigner had something over the Rhino, but to my knowledge it wasn't clearly stated. And like I said earlier, I'm going back to see the film again, so this might have been something that I missed, but I feel like something of this nature shouldn't be such a mystery. Honestly, if you were to take the foreigner out the movie and focus on the big three, the Rhino, Kraven, and it would have been just fine. So if you're wondering what I would rate this film, I would rate it 4.5 stars out of 5. It's still an enjoyable movie with room for improvement. I don't think it deserves as much hate as it's getting. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's also not terrible. Let me know what you guys think about Kraven the Hunter down in the comments below, or even if I missed something, because I probably did. I could talk about this movie for hours, but for now, I'll leave it at that. And if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching and supporting my channel. And be sure to use code DACYouTube for 10% off your order on my Etsy. The link is in the description down below. And that's all I have for you today. Be sure to go watch Kraven the Hunter in theaters now, and be sure to go with an open mind. I feel like nowadays we can't just enjoy a movie. Not every movie has to be a Oscar-winning film. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Comment down below what you want to see next, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!